I've been doing a lot of thinking in these last several weeks, especially during this time where we're inside social isolation and wondering, what is this really all about? Is it simply another virus and we need to protect ourselves? And yet it occurs to me that one of the things that we have to do when a virus strikes, when a plague strikes, this is traditional, we need to introspect. We need to ask ourselves, why? Now, of course, we can't enter into the mind of God. We can't ask God the question, why are you allowing hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people to die around the world? Death is inscrutable. We can't ask that question unless we were to enter into the mind of God, which we can't do. And indeed, this is historical. I mean, we could ask the question, just generally speaking, why did God create a world where pain and death takes place? And not just when we talk about 6 million deaths, even one single death. And even why did God create a world whereby we could step on an ant and kill an ant? Anything. And of course, we can't answer such questions. But we do know that there is design and purpose in the universe. And if there's purpose, that gives us scope to introspect and ask, what is it that we need to respond to given this particular message? Now, historically, we know that when there have been plagues, it's usually the result of a particular factor. Let me take you to where we are at the moment, Spheros Omer, counting of the Omer, which is an important series of events of offering the Omer sacrifice when the temple was in existence. And yet, it's associated currently with negativity. There are a lot of restrictions during the initial days of the Omer. And that is because during this period of time, the students of Rabbi Akiva were dying of a plague. It's recorded that 24,000 students of the great Rabbi Akiva died in the period between the beginning of the Omer and Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer. And the question is, why? Rabbi Akiva was such a great individual, an individual who at the age of 40 couldn't read Aleph Beis and then saw that there was water dripping on a rock and left an indent on the rock and got inspiration that even he, the individual who was like a rock, he was an ignoramus at the age of 40, the water of Torah could drip on him and make him into something, and he was inspired to go and learn and became the great Rabbi Akiva. And yet here we find a period where his students, who were indeed the leading students of the day, were dying. And the conclusions that are drawn are that somehow or other there was a lack of Ahavat Yisrael. There was a lack of mutual love. And the Rebbe explains that it wasn't an overt lack of love, but they were so strong in their independent, individual reading of the Torah, of the way that they individually understood it, that there was a total intolerance of the next student, which led to acrimony and it led to bad feelings, etc. And although this wasn't an overt hatred, God forbid, it was of such students such a major dissension that it was created the resultant effects of anger, if you will, if I attribute such a notion to God, that caused a plague to set in. So what was the results of that? To learn that we had to overcome that tendency of having mutuality being broken. The first Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, we're told that they were destroyed because of sinas chinam, wantonness, hatred, baseless hatred. People just hated each other. They argued with each other. They completely disagreed with each other on a constant fashion. And of course, the antidote to that is ahavas chinam, love for no good reason, or for every good reason. In other words, love without a base. To love someone because you love someone. Now, If that is the antidote to a plague that took place then and other occasions when there were plagues, we're living through a plague. It strikes me odd that we don't learn through our introspection the lesson of what's needed at the moment. What's needed at the moment is ahavas chinam, loving each other in a pure fashion, and for no good reason, not because they've given us a favor, not because they've done something right for us, to love each other. And as I look around, we're living in a world where there is constant friction amongst ourselves. In our own little world of our family, how many occasions people are coming to me and discussing all these narishkeiten of arguments they have inside the family for reasons which are only to do with ego. Of course, they're couched with words like honor and right and wrong, but it's ego. You didn't honor me. You didn't call me back. I kept calling you. And shtuyot. When you take any one of these things and compare it to death and dying, what are you talking about? He didn't call you. You weren't honored. And other parallel kind of little things compared to the enormity of what's happening. In our own families, we need to create ahavas chinam, parent and child. Children need discipline. They need to have consistency, but they need to have a sense of love when discipline is being administered. Same in schools. And how can you tell that it's coming from the right place? That it's not a power play? That's not a result of personal offense? What chutzpah you're giving to me? Whether it's to a parent or whether it's to a teacher. And it's how you effect the discipline. What's happening with your body language? What's happening with your eyes? The child will know automatically if it's coming from a place of love, discipline that's consistent and firm, but a loving underpinning to it, or if it's coming from power, ego, getting back, revenge. God forbid. And then when we look into the Jewish world, our own country, Eretz Yisrael, and we see the kind of divisions that exist in society there, we have veritably a civil war between the religious and the non-religious, the so-called ultra-Orthodox and the secular. They don't understand the ultra-Orthodox and their fear of what government wishes to do and not to do. And on the other hand, the secular resent the ultra-Orthodox for not listening to governmental unity pleas and the like, without understanding what are the dynamics. Not through a lens of understanding, but immediately dislike and hate. And there are other divisions, political factions that absolutely fight tooth and nail, and if they could kill each other for whatever reason. God forbid, God forbid. And it all comes from ego. And it all comes from what the Rebbe always called wanting to hold the benkel. Each politician simply wants to have his seat, her seat. Nothing to do with what's right or wrong, what's good, benevolence, understanding, empathy. We're not pulling together. We're tearing each other apart. And it's happening in the world as such. When you look at the politics in the United States and you see the kind of schism between the Republicans and the Democrats, and how there is an absolute attempt to pull each other down, nothing to do with the merit or demerit of an approach. They're not working for the good of the country. They're doing it for the purpose of being elected. And of course, that's true of a lot of political systems. Fortunately, here in Australia, I think we have a degree of compatibility and closeness, for whatever reason, that makes us very fortunate in that regard. But nevertheless, there is schism in the world. We have trade schisms, economic schisms, absolute suspicion of China, and China suspecting the whole world, and each one in their own particular corner. What's the answer to all that? It starts at home. It starts with us. It starts with you and me practicing ahavas chinam. It means that you and I have to practice love wantonly, without any basis. Someone once came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, how can I love someone who I despise? And the Rebbe answered, you don't love what you despise, you love what is lovable about the person. That a person has two tendencies, the despicable, which comes from the Yetzer Hara, and the loving, which comes from the Yetzer HaTov. Every one of us has a Yetzer HaTov. Every one of us has a Nefesh Elokis, a godly spark. Love that. Every person has it, so you love everybody. Never hate anybody amongst us. That's what brothers and sisters are all about. And that's what we have to practice ourselves. I would like to see individuals going out there and practicing this Ahavas Yisrael. Yes, it does take place. Currently, there are a lot of good people doing good things in these particular moments of great challenge. The amount of chesed that's taking place is enormous. But we need to do more personally, ourselves, in our interpersonal relations, in the way that we speak to each other, to be able to use sympathy and empathy so overtly. So create groups that will practice it out in the public. Create a program, create a campaign. But most of all, allow yourself to be an exponent of it, truly right down to the depth of your kishkas. When you meet someone else, say something good. Say something uplifting. Elevate. Don't become the martyr who's be a prophet of doom, and you connect by being the most negative person possible, and negativities meet negativities. Pessimism meets pessimism. No. Be uplifting because you love the person wanting to be happy. And in this particular day and age, that's so important. So I leave you with this challenge. From your heart, in your own home, with your own children perhaps, with your spouse perhaps, certainly then with friends and neighbors, and extend into the community, with a stranger, in the business world, wherever might be the circumstance, workplace, profession. Practice it, practice it. Always express love, and in so doing, the plague will stop. That's been historically shown. We are being given a clear message of what we need to do to change. And in Yirtzeh Hashem, if I change for the better, I know I'm going to help make the whole world a better place. Same with you. Go and do it.